Let's see. Choose starting point. Starling City. Choose destination. Nanda Parbat. Travel time 3 minutes. Awesome. What's up, guys? This is Matt here with some thoughts on Season 3, Episode 22 of Arrow, titled This Is Your Sword. This premiered last night, and as usual, I'm going to run through some stuff that I really enjoyed in no particular order. I'll be spoiling some stuff, so if you haven't watched the episode yet, pause this, go watch it, come back, you'll be glad you did. But I'm going to jump right into it, and the first thing I will mention is it was nice to see Diggle and Laurel kicking ass. Now they're still out there, fighting crime, busting some bad guys. Even though Oliver's been assimilated by the league, so it was nice to kind of see them working together, as we've seen a little bit before. We got a little taste of that when the season came back from the winter hiatus. But I like seeing this because Diggle is a beast. I mean, he is a huge guy. He's military trained. I mean, he can kick ass. But most of the time, he just sort of sits on the sidelines, or he hangs out in the Arrow Cave with Felicity while Oliver and Roy or Laurel or whoever goes out and does all the dirty work. So it was nice to see him sort of get his hands dirty. And then it was cool to see Laurel out there too. We could sort of see the fruits of her training, and I like that she's coming along. She seems like she might still be a little bit too good for the short amount of time she's been being trained, but she does still get smacked around a few times too. So I think for the most part they're handling that pretty well. But overall, I like seeing them together, doing what they do best. Next up is the fact that Oliver has been faking this whole time. Now, we sort of suspected it. We thought that it was either he was going to be faking or something was going to completely snap him out of it. Those really the only two ways it could go anyway. But I think I like this better, that he's faking, because a couple of weeks ago in one of the videos I posted, I kind of mentioned that it just seems like his will would be stronger than being brainwashed within 3 weeks. I mean, he was stuck on the island for 4 or 5 years, and he went through all that stuff in Hong Kong. I mean, he's been through some stuff that's made him pretty strong. So I would think 3 weeks wouldn't really cut it, unless, like I mentioned in my earlier video, he was being exposed to some kind of herb or something. And I talked about that a little bit. Maybe it was the same thing that was controlling Thea and made her kill Sarah. I don't know, but all that's irrelevant now, because we know he's been faking, and he's been doing a really good job too, because while everybody had their theories, nobody really knew for sure. There was a couple times that he, when he heard something that he didn't really like, he made that, kind of face. That was horrible, I know, but he made the face where he kind of couldn't hold it in just for a minute. But I like that he's faking, because it shows that he's stronger willed than that. The only thing is, this means that last week he willingly killed a guy. He killed the guy that he was envisioning was Diggle, that Ra's brought to him. He just stabbed him right in the chest or whatever it was. So I guess he's okay with that, or maybe we'll see that he has to come to terms with that later. I'm not really sure, but maybe he realized that it was for the greater good. But they'll probably never mention it again, just like the time that Roy got zapped by the Atom, and they never did anything about it. They'll probably just sweep this one under the rug too. One thing I'll mention real quick that's kind of not really related to this, but we sort of got a sense of in the same scene, was the fact that apparently Nanda Parbat is about, a few miles down the road from Starling City. Maybe it's the next county over or something like that. But these guys can travel to and from Starling to Nanda Parbat in a matter of minutes. We see Malcolm in Nanda Parbat, and then we see him back in Starling, and then he goes back again. I don't know. There's a lot of back and forth. But the funny thing is, he even mentions how hard it is to get to. Yet we see him in both places in the same night. So that's actually it's kind of trivial. I mean, it shouldn't really matter. It's actually kind of bugging me quite a bit, because it's blatantly obvious that something's going on. I mean, that they're not really trying or something. Usually in shows that do this kind of thing, they don't do it so much. But this season has been back and forth. Starling, Nanda Parbat, Starling. And they've done it so quickly, but yet we've at least seen one scene of them on an airplane traveling there, so you know you have to get there by jet. I don't know. I'm going on about nothing. Doesn't really have anything to do with anything. It just kind of bugs me, but it doesn't take away from the experience of the rest of the show. Roy's back, at least for a little bit. We were kind of sad to see him go a few episodes ago. Thea went to see him after she learned that he was still alive. He's working in an auto shop now, and his name is Jason. I wonder if that's in reference to Jason Todd, because Roy Harper is hanging out with Jason Todd in the books right now. I just thought about that, and I doubt it. Never mind. But it was good to see. It was good to see Roy. We only saw him in a couple scenes. Basically, he was there long enough to knock boots with Thea and then tell her that she needs to stop running away from her problems, only to have himself run away from problems. I guess they weren't really problems, but he did kind of up and leave fairly quickly, but not before giving her his costume, which she had actually brought him. We haven't seen it yet. I would be willing to say there's some alterations, and we even get to see Thea in the red suit just briefly in the promo for next week. There was barely a shot. I saw a freeze frame. There was a guy falling down. You could see Thea a little bit in the background, so we'll get to see her coming up next episode in costume. I'd be willing to say she's not going to be Arsenal. I wonder if they're going to go with the Speedy name. Maybe they'll go with Red Arrow, and that leads to... I've always thought that Arsenal or Roy or whoever would adopt the mantle of Red Arrow, or maybe they didn't like the name Arsenal, and they said, well, you can be called Arrow too, but we have to differentiate ourselves, so you'll be Red Arrow and I'll be Green Arrow. That's always kind of how I thought he would get the name of Green Arrow, but we'll see. I don't know. Maybe they won't even give her a name. They barely called Roy Arsenal, so we'll see what happens. But it'll be cool to see her in the suit doing some cool stuff, but I still kind of miss Roy. We finally see present-day Katana in this episode. Now, we have seen Tatsu in present day a little bit when the season came back from the winter break. She helped Oliver recover from his injuries suffered by Raish, but she didn't really do anything other than patch him up a little bit. This time, she actually joins the team, travels to Nanda Parbat, and she's wearing the full Katana gear, which was actually... It looked really good. I kind of wish that they had sort of explained it, or not really explained it, but at least made mention of the mask and the suit a little bit more, because it was just kind of inexplicable. She just sort of had it. I mean, what does it represent? What does the mask represent? Is it handed down? Is it some kind of warrior thing? They didn't touch on it at all. She didn't have it on very long, but I kind of think it was more just fan service than anything else, because it didn't really serve a purpose. It's not really hiding your identity or anything like that, like Oliver's mask. So, but nonetheless, it was really cool to see, which actually leads me into the entire fight sequence between Team Arrow and the League of Assassins when they get back to Nanda Parbat, which apparently it only took them about 5 minutes to get to. But it was really cool. It was really well done. There was lots of action going on. Everybody taking down some folks. There was actually one awesome. Probably the best scene was one of the League was going to shoot Felicity with an arrow. She actually turns around and flings her tablet at him and knocks him out, only to find out that it was actually Malcolm who had shot him in the back with an arrow. And she says, oh, well, that makes more sense. That was actually really well done. That's classic Felicity. We haven't seen a lot of that in a while. Basically, what we've been subjected to in the last few weeks is crying and weepy-eyed Felicity, which is really annoying. I want to get back to the fun, strong, smart Felicity that we all came to love. So we'll see. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Also in that fight, let's see, we got a couple more things. We got a nice, awesome sword fight between Tatsu and Masao, in which Tatsu kills Masao. We should have seen that coming, given if you read the comics, you know that Tatsu, or Katana, actually wields a sword which is supposedly possessed by the soul of her husband. I can't remember if it talks to her or not. I don't think we'll see that in this show, but I think that kind of pays homage to that whole bit from the books. And it was really kind of touching, because you could tell that they still love each other, even though Tatsu had been assimilated again by the League. She sung the same song to him as she sang to Akio when he died. We got to see that this episode too. In the flashback, we got to see him finally die. Not finally die, that sounds bad. But we got to see what finally happened that drove the wedge between between Tatsu and Masao. So it was nice to see that come to a head in an epic sword fight from them. And then the last thing I'll mention about that big battle was Iron Man. I'm sorry, I mean the Atom. I cannot. I've said this before. I like Ray. I like his character in the show. I think he plays off the rest of the cast really well. I cannot stand the Atom. I mean, and it's not the fact that he's such a far departure from the Atom in the books. It's not even that. It's just the fact that he's just a blatant Iron Man ripoff. It's like that's what they're going for. Why can't they do something similar to what's in the comics? I mean, he's got a suit of armor. He's shooting down jets. He's flying through them, just like Iron Man would. That really bothers me. The less we see of the Atom, the better. Although I do like Ray, and I actually can't wait to see a lot of him in the new Legends of Tomorrow series that was just announced. It just got picked up. But geez, fake Iron Man, no thank you. I'm going to talk about Malcolm for a minute. I don't know what Malcolm's doing. He's really the only part of this show that you can't predict, and that you can't really tell whose side he's on or what his motives are or what he's thinking. You can't tell if he's part of a plan with Oliver to join to fake joining the league. I mean, obviously he is part of a plan because they meet up and they talk about, Oliver tells him about what's going on with the league. So obviously they were planning this together, and he even tells Team Arrow as much. But then later he tells Raish that Oliver is a traitor. So is that part of the plan too, or is he really looking out for himself and he's a badder dude than what we thought? I don't know. He's the one character that you really just can't quite put your finger on. He's a mass murderer. I mean, he was responsible for the undertaking in season 1. He killed 503 people, something like that. Lots of people, hundreds of people. Yet he's still walking around. I'm not sure how. I guess he's still wanted. I talked about that a couple weeks ago too. So he's not a good guy. He has killed people. Although this season he hasn't quite been such a bad guy. He's helped out Team Arrow a lot. But maybe he really is a bad guy because he's throwing Oliver under the bus when he's trying to be working with him. I don't know. I can't tell. And it's nice to not know and not be able to. It's nice that it's not telegraphed what he's doing, like a lot of the show is. So the last thing I'll mention is the whole end sequence. So you've got it going back and forth between Oliver and Nissa's wedding, where she actually tries to kill Oliver and he stops her. But that's classic Nissa. That just seems like something she would do because she's pissed about having to marry Oliver. She doesn't want to at all. So it was nice to see that. But while that's happening, it's intermingling with the shot of Team Arrow locked in a dungeon, and Oliver actually just threw supposedly the vial of the Alpha Omega virus. Supposedly Team Arrow is dying. They're all falling over, and at Oliver's hands. Malcolm tried to tell the team that Oliver was faking it, and they don't really believe him, and this isn't helping, but you got to do what you got to do. Malcolm already threw Oliver under the bus, and Oliver was able to convince Raish that he wasn't lying, so I guess he had to do this to prove that he wasn't. I don't really know. We don't really know what's gonna happen. Well, we don't know what's causing them to pass out, but we do know that they're going to be fine because 5 seconds after we saw them all supposedly dead on the floor, we saw the promo for next week, and they're all up and running and shooting and punching and fighting and screaming and yelling. So obviously they're going to be okay. I think that he threw a fake vial down on the ground, and it was just like knockout gas or something. We didn't see them bleed from the nose like we saw with Akio in the flashback, so obviously they're going to be okay. It's just a question of how are they going to be okay. So that's the only thing. And I'm okay. I mean, obviously they're not going to die anyway. I mean, it's all of Team Arrow. You're not going to lose all of them. But so the question is, okay, we know they're going to live, but the question is how. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just wondering how and not, oh my gosh, are they really dead? Maybe the Flash helps out. He pops up in the promo for next week. I don't know. Maybe they inoculated themselves beforehand and we didn't see it. It's probably going to be something like that. They're probably going to have a quick flashback to 5 minutes before the plane takes off from Nanda Parbat, and they inject themselves with something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But but my whole point with all this is it was really kind of ominous because the music and then the wedding, which was one thing, and then everybody dying, which was another. it was just really well done, the way they sort of contrasted each other. So not only will it be interesting to see how Team Arrow gets out of this, but also how Oliver gets out of marrying Nyssa. Or does he? Anyway, guys, that's everything that I wanted to run through. There was some other cool stuff that happened in this episode, so if I left anything out that you want to talk about, leave them in the comments below. And in the meantime, if you want to keep up with all the rest of the cool stuff that the Nerd Punch crew is doing, just follow us on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, all those /Nerd Punch. You can also go to nerdpunch.com to see all of our videos and other stuff that we find across the internet, and also to see our schedule of all the cool things that we do during the week. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.